factors to look for when you're searching for a place to fish. Uh, One way you can find out where the fish are is you can ask fellow fishermen. Say you know somebody, or you know somebody who knows somebody who goes fishing a lot, and they're usually successful. And you ask them, hey, where do you go fishing? Where do you like to fish? One thing you need to be wary of is most fishermen are going to be kind of reluctant to tell you exactly where they go fishing, because that is what they consider their honey hole. It's their sweet spot. This is where I have all the luck. If you start going there and you tell somebody who starts going there as well, you're going to take up all the fish, and I'm going to be out of luck. I'm going to have to find somewhere else. So, yeah, it can come with some kind of success, but you've also got to be aware that they might not tell you the whole story. They might actually even steer you away from there. You know, they might give you good pointers, but they're not going to give you their secret to where they actually have the most success. So but that is just one way you can do it. You could also go to a store and or go online and find it's called a topographic map. Now what this is it's going to tell you, it's going to show you, okay, this body of water. Now with this body of water, here's where the canals run. This is the deepest part of this body of water. This is where the water flows. It's going to give you all that information. This information is going to be important to you so that you know, especially what you're fishing for, where they're going to be. If you know you've got a bottom feeder, you're going to want to go to the deepest part. If you're going for, say, a bass, they're going to tend to stay in the more shallow side. So this would help you. You can find these. Just go to google.com and type in topographic maps for Lake, whatever, Moultrie is one of the big lakes here in South Carolina. You put that in, you can find a topographic map fairly easily and work from there. Also, you can look online at forums and websites. This kind of goes back to what I said earlier about asking people you know, but this way you're kind of getting pointers from people you may not know. So they'll say, hey, I had a lot of success here. This is what I was using. They'll give you the whole layout. Maybe they don't fish there very often. They just had luck there once, so they're not going to be as reluctant to give you the information. Or I guess I'd say they won't hesitate as much or put up a fight to tell you what they used and what they were doing. There's numerous websites you can find these locations, all these tricks, all these different, I guess you'd say, techniques to catch the type of fish you're going for. So now you got to kind of know where you're going to go, what to look for when you get there, what kind of fish, what the lay of the land is, so on and so forth. So now that we know where we want to go fishing, we need to know what kind of bait we're going to be using. This is where a lot of people get kind of mixed up. The first bait you could start with is, say, a regular worm, a night crawler, red worm, green worm, something like that. It's found naturally. Most fish, it's their natural food source, so you can find it anywhere. A lot of the bait and tackle shops, or even some grocery stores even, they'll have a little section that's just one type, just a regular plastic worm. Also, another natural food that fish feed on, this is called a green pumpkin. If you can see, it's shaped like a lizard. Most bass will eat, well, a bass will eat just about anything, but lizards are pretty abundant out in the wild, so they tend to get eaten, gobbled up by bass, so they know it. They're like, oh, I ate something like that yesterday, I want to try it again, it was really good, so here you are. Works the same way as your worm here. You just stick the hook anywhere you want, anywhere that benefit, and you're just going to mimic using your rod and reel in different movements, however you see fit, whatever works for you. You're just going to kind of guide it along. Some people will just stroll it along, make it look like it's swimming on top of the water. Some people make like it's a worm in distress and have it bouncing off the bottom. Fish is going to see that, and they're going to strike it, thinking, oh, an easy meal. And finally, another type of lure, you can see this, is a fake shad lure. As you can see, there's two hooks attached to it, one in the front, one in the back, treble hooks now. That way, no matter which end the fish strikes it at, you're going to have twice the chance of landing it. So as you can see, it looks pretty much like a real fish. I mean, if you got right up on it, you wouldn't be able to, you'd be able to tell. A fish wouldn't. Again, they don't have the brains that we have to sit there and think about, hey, is that real or fake? No, hey, I had one of those yesterday, I better try it again. As you can see, one thing that makes this one here more successful, if you can listen, you hear it clicking, that kind of draws the fish's attention. So they hear that. Remember, sound travels faster in the water than it does on land, so they're going to hear that and they're going to automatically turn and, hey, what's that? And then they see this flopping around, oh, look, that's an easy meal. So they're going to strike at it. So this is another type that you might want to use out there, depending on what you're going for. In this case, you're going to go for something like a bass or any other kind of fish that don't mind chasing down their food. And of course, finally, you have your still fishing, which you would use a cut bait or, say, I don't know, chicken livers, something like that. Cut bait is you go out early in the morning using one of these small, say worms, something like that. You go out and find bait fish, like a perch or something, brim. You save that for when you're ready to go fishing for the big fish, say a catfish or a pike or a muskie, something like that. So when it's time, you reach in your live well and you grab one of these fish that you saved from earlier. It should be a live well. You put it on a cutting board and you're actually going to cut the fish up and use that as bait. So you cut the fish up, you put it on your hook, and you cast it out. Now, this is more for bottom feeders. You're more than likely that bait's going to sit on the bottom, and a catfish is going to smell it because their sense of smell is phenomenal. And be like, oh, that smells delicious, let me go that way. They're not going to look, they're just going to see a free meal, and they're going to strike at that, and you'll have better luck. Same thing with chicken livers, you cast it out there, they're going to pick up the scent. And then, of course, you got like stink baits. They call it stink bait because a lot of them, you can buy some that are made up, or you can make it yourself using different techniques. If you need a recipe for it, you just look online, you can find a recipe for any kind of stink bait you want. Stuff that people put together, or stuff that people have been using for years. It doesn't matter. But you build it up and you got actual hooks made just for that, where you put the actual stink bait in, and again, the fish is going to pick up the scent, think it's an easy meal, go strike it, and then you'd be able to easily reel it in. Most people see fishing as an activity used for fun, but David Harding states that fishing can also be beneficial in many other ways, as found on www.yahoo.com, on Yahoo Voices. Although fishing isn't physically demanding, it can still get you in good shape if you think about it. Because to find a good fishing hole, you're going to be doing some walking. So there's your cardio. You're going to be moving over rocks. You're going to be cutting in and out of trees. Depending on where you go, if you find a good spot, usually it's going to take some work to get to that spot. So you're going to work on your cardiovascular fishing takes more than just throwing bait in the water and pulling out a fish. When you master it, it can be